it's hard to, to decide who the most racist couple in America is. But I think we've got the potential for answering that today. We've had clips on before with Dinesh D'Souza, and this is his wife Debbie. And Debbie D'Souza, that A does come in the graphic at some point, it's a freeze frame. I thought mistakenly, one of the few times I've been wrong, that that because she's a woman would be sort of a mitigating voice in the sort of anti-immigrant racism that is just all over Dinesh D'Souza's rhetoric and everything. And it turns out she's worse than he is, by far. Debbie D'Souza is absolutely disgusted by anybody who crosses into the United States over the southern border, legally or otherwise. The Afghans that are being relocated that helped us, those people are awful. They're just gross. They're going to destroy America. They're terrorists. Like the whole deal. Like, and at times he was even pushing back against how far she was going, which is telling. But today and this is in that zone, I have no doubt. The title of this one is Leftist Multiculturalism Misrepresents Non-White Immigrants in America. Boy, that's a lot of syllables saying a whole lot of nothing. But I'm fascinated because in a lot of these ways, this is supposedly telling us what we think. Telling, Democrats what we think. This is what Democrats think. And therefore, I'm always up for someone who can explain to me what I'm thinking, because I don't know. It's so hard. Like, I get so many, they're like butterflies. They're just bouncing around in my head, and I don't really know what I really think and why I think the way I do. And I'm always fascinated to find out from lovely people like Debbie and Dinesh.
Here because we've been chuckling about an article that's from NBC News, and
it's all MSNBC. I mean, basically, it's the deep state of the news. So I don't even know why I make that up. But you've been chuckling about it. This is gonna be good.
Called Bicultural Latinos Embrace Dual Identities. Shun pressure to assimilate. And so
that's so funny because that is so it's almost what?
Underlying premise of the article is that in the old days, Latinos, and I think one could say this about minorities generally, were under
Yes, by the way, thank God Dinesh has never been afraid to say things about minorities generally.
To become American, to dissolve their old identity.
Yes, dissolve their old identity. That's why we have St. Paddy's Day. That's why we dye the river green on St. Paddy's Day, because that's the process of dissolving people's Irish heritage.
Sort of take on this American identity. And
yeah, you can do that without losing your own identity. You realize that. Maybe you can't. Maybe you can. I can. Maybe you can.
Evidently,
yes,
and there's
we're a salad bowl, not a melting pot. And racially, every so often, we like to have our salad tossed. What?
Interviews with different types of people, and we'll talk a little bit about this, what they say. But the idea is that they say, well, we don't have to do that. We can actually preserve our own identity.
Yeah, weird things like Chinatown and Little Italy and Greek Town and authentic Polish sausage stands in Chicago and Are we just going straight for taco trucks on every corner? Is this what he's afraid of?
Tact. And that's the question I wanted to explore, because it seems to me that even this...
And you're the person to ask, Debbie, because only you could come on the show wearing gold pajamas, acting like an unwrapped chocolate.
dichotomy of assimilating versus preserving your identity is misleading. And I wanted to kind of tap into both of our
Yes, I wanted to see if, like, find the most racist person I know personally and bring them on.
experience, especially yours. You fit the Latina label. I don't. Talk
That was a rough slip.
a bit about just your own family history. Well, first of all, you have a dual Latina heritage. Talk about that.
I do. So, as most people know by now, I was born in Venezuela.
So clearly you're a spy, and you've been sent here by the Marxist regime to infiltrate the conservative side of America, to manipulate your way in, pretend to be completely on their side, and then once in a position of power, turn the country into a Marxist socialist paradise. Or not. I mean,
Venezuelan
hi,
father
love. How you feeling? Love you.
and a Mexican American mother, who is a Texan. She was born.
Oh, hold on one second. Oh, Susan passed. Pauline W. Oh, thank you for posting that, CSL. We lost a Facebook sparkler today. Susan Godimer. She was loved by all. I'm sorry. Was she sick? Do we know why? Well, this needs to be a conversation. I'm near the end of the show, so this needs to be a conversation for a future show. We'll talk about it on the Wednesday morning show, I hope. But much love to everybody who knew her.
And raised in the Rio Grande Valley of Texas, down in the very tip of Texas on the border. And so yes, I have.
Yeah, so she grew up in an escape ladder town where they pulled the ladder up after them.
Two different, basically very different cultures, very different Latino/Hispanic cultures.
Now,
Because,
well, let's explain
yeah.
what that means, because from
Yeah, let's make sure that our labels are correct and our smaller labels upon labels.
obviously, by and large, when people think Hispanic, they think this is people who speak Spanish. And yes, your mom
Yeah,
and
because the words. That's what I think. It's the span part that makes me think that they either speak Spanish or they're very wide.
dad both spoke Spanish, but even then, not exactly the same Spanish, right?
Right.
No, of course not. There's Castilian Spanish, there's broken Spanish, there's high school Spanish. Hola, señora Frain, ¿cómo está?
And,
correct.
and second, but Venezuela and the Rio Grande Valley, two different cuisines.
Oh, well, two different worlds apart.
So talk about that. Well, how are those two?
I'm sorry. How did these two cuisines exist if they were supposed to assimilate? Please tell me that you found a way to make a taco burger. Please tell me that that they found a way to incorporate their obviously lesser culture into American culture in a way that makes it basically like we make apple pie with refried beans. It's that kind of thing. Everything must fall under. Oh man,
It's different.
Very
I'm
different.
Sorry, Kathy.
Well, first of all, the Mexican culture is quite different than the South American culture. Even
Well, not once it gets here, obviously. As soon as they move here, they change their name to Susan and start wearing gold pajamas.
though they do share the Spain roots. So let me kind of go back to the Hispanic/Latino terms.
Yeah, this is good. I feel like this is clarifying a lot. Yeah, so Tex-Mex, right? Shit.
And I don't even go with this Latinx because that's so dumb. But anyway, Latina, right?
Well, hold on. Since you brought up Latinx, let's just say a word about Latinx. Now,
Yeah.
Latinx, quite honestly, we got to be candid about this. Latinx is a coinage of the gays,
Oh.
We know why? Because if you look at Asian,
We're all learning something today. Apparently, Latinx is a gay phrase, not an American Latino Hispanic phrase to equalize Latino and Latina into a singular with an X on the end, even though, obviously English-speaking American-grown people with Latin heritage, degendering a Romance language is a bit fucked up. It really is. But this is it's a gay thing. This is, and from the gays, according to the gays. What?
You look at black, those are gender neutral.
Well, hang on. What? Run that by me again, stupid.
See, we got to be on candid about this. Latinx is a coinage of the gays,
Oh.
We know why? Because if you look at Asian or you look at black, those are gender neutral, right? You can be black, you can be black man, black woman. Asian, the same. But with in the case of Latino, gender. You have Latino and Latina.
Right.
And so
Latino is a dude, ends with an A.
Right. So all these sexual revolutionaries, these trans people, they're like, we can't, there's no distinction between, so we need to put that's where the X comes from. But can you imagine, I mean, think about this. How did the gays get to name an entire race?
Well, I don't know.
Shit. I mean, this is the age-old question. How do the gays get to name an entire race? It's not. It's largely a term in the American left, but it's degendering a gendered phrase to include everybody. It's not, whatever. How do the gays get to name an entire race? Shit, I did not even see that on the gay agenda checklist. And I used to have a fresh copy of it mailed to me all the time. I mean, they got to update it sometimes. Did they add that to this? Anybody know what date change what the Latino community is called ended up on the gay agenda? Was it new business or old business?
Talk about that, but anyway.
Okay, let's return to.
Let's not talk about that, but
let's not
return to this. So basically, the reason that I'm
just asked, who is the Pope of the gays? Obviously, Bruce Valanche. I'm gonna have to talk to him about this. Bruce, if you're watching, and I'm pretty sure you are, can you tell me on what page of the gay agenda renaming entire races was? Obviously, it's got to be some sub-appendix because I'm not seeing it in the cover letter.
Hispanic and Latina is I am from Latin America, and that's where the term Latina comes from.
See, I thought that it was because you were from Latin America. And
say a Mexican American from Texas is not typically termed Latino because they're not from Latin America. They have the Hispaniola, Spanish, from Spain.
I don't know what words you're using right there. I only speak American. So you're losing all of us. And if you don't say Spain while spitting, and it uses the European pronunciation, I can't understand anything.
But they don't have the Latin American label, right? Whereas since my mother is a Texan, and she always says she's a Texan, she never says she's a Mexican American. That's a whole other story. But anyway, because of that, I'm both Hispanic and Latina.
No.
So it's but you've obviously assimilated by only cooking Dinesh's favorite meal, which is of course fish delight and Diet Coke. He only eats what the Fuhrer enjoys.
Yes.
What you're not mentioning, but not because you're holding it back, but because you were focusing on Hispanics, you are also 10% African in your DNA.
And this is the moment where she truly gets sad. Look at her face. He brings it up and yes, find a happy place.
Hey,
I was, yes.
When you got your ancestry, you were a little bit shocked.
Yes. Well,
a little bit shocked. Did you get new silverware and new china, or did you just tape it all back together and unbend the spoons?
Literally.
I'm what? Jesus. I had to die. If you break any more plates, honey, you're going to be Greek or something. Shut up. I'm sorry.
I represent almost every race, if not every race in the world. So
No, you do not. You by no means represent every race in the world. The fuck?
About as multicultural as you can get.
Right.
This is the face of someone that has 12% African black roots from Nigeria, from Senegal, from Cameroon, all over, right? And so
he's studied your 23andMe with. He stays up late at night after she's snoring and farting in the bed next to him. He's just like looking at this thing like, how could this be? How could this be?
And then I also have American Indian. My grandfather was.
Did you have to say Indian so hard right in his face?
Part of the Apache, I guess, tribe. So, well, he wasn't. His ancestors.
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, I mean, and we'll just push aside that you're partly alive because your ancestors slaughtered Pawnee and Chippewa and raped the Comanche out of existence. That kind of stuff.
I have that plus that. Then I have Spanish, Portuguese, Italian. I mean, I'm pretty much everything.
No, this is worth noting because these percentages of Native American and Black, just talk about those for a second, those
which are giving him indigestion.
Not small because by and large, even in tribal membership, they use a 6% rule.
Okay.
I mean, Elizabeth Warren is far less than, she's got a tiny percentage, but you qualify by tribal standards as being Native American. If you were chosen to, if you identify as Native American, also your percentage of Black actually matches many people in this country.
Sure, the one drop rule. This is fucking insane. This whole conversation, the fact that they think this has to be spoken out loud, or that this is actually going anywhere, or that this is actually meaningful, is gorgeous. Look at these two lunatics. And I don't know where the fuck this is going. Other than, look, you have all these different races in you, and yet you don't give a fuck about any of them. The important thing is you're a goddamn American. Because that's where we're going with this. And all the while, she's distinctly playing up the fact that she has these different systems, these different races in her background. And they all play a part, and she knows the difference and the distinction. She's aware of them. It seems to inform some of her behavior and cultural roots. It's so stupid.
Mixed race and who call themselves Black.
Right.
So what we see here, I mean, the reason I mention this is the complete fluidity. If someone tried to classify you, it's not easy to do it.
It's not easy to
It's easy to do it for me.
Yeah. Well, you're 100% Indian.
100%.
I'm not 100% anything.
Right.
So I'm a little bit.
Well, you're 1,000% woman, Debbie. Come on, Dinesh. That was an easy tee up. She's your wife. Give it a try. Come on, you're married to the woman. You're 3 times a lady. I'm not 100% anything. Yeah. Yes. I'm not 100% sure that the gays aren't going to rename you.
A little of that, but I want to first focus on my Mexican American heritage.
I don't know why, but I wince every time they change topics. Like, I'm constantly like, where's this going? Where's this going? This is going to get ugly. She's 100% dumbass.
So I just want to mention that, and this article basically says that people that grew up Latino or Hispanic wanted to assimilate immediately. My grandmother, who graduated high school, Donna High School in 1927, she was salutatorian of her class.
She was the salutatorian. Yeah, she made salad for the whole thing, right?
Very, very smart. She probably was valedictorian, but there was a lot.
But somebody else had better dressing, obviously, and it was those fucking croutons that disqualified her.
Of discrimination with Hispanics.
Yeah, which is exactly why the speedy reason for assimilating. Now that there's less discrimination, there's less need to assimilate because people aren't immediately turned off and xenophobic about different cultures. They're like, yeah, you can be an American and you can still retain elements of your culture a lot more than you might have originally. Ask all the Korean Christians.
Back then,
they didn't want to give her the
exactly, and so we think that the reason she got the second, was because of that. But anyway, very smart woman, but she wanted her kid.
Let's understand that these assholes think she deserved to be valedictorian, but she didn't get it because she was Hispanic. And yet they can't understand why more people seem to want to be American without totally assimilating their culture and knowing that we all vote the same, but that doesn't mean we all have to have the same holidays all the time. Shit like that.
To speak English, to fully assimilate, because she didn't want them to be called out. And back then, when my mother was in elementary school, if
people were dicks,
they spoke Spanish, they were reprimanded. And so a lot of that stemmed from the fact that they wanted to become fully American, right? So when my mother, after college, my mother went to Venezuela to teach at an
oil. And by the way, language versus culture when you go to another country is a completely different thing. You don't have to take on the holidays of some place that you move to or the fucking clothing style or any of that stuff. But out of decency, if you go to another country and you're going to live there, if you're going to migrate to another country and the vast majority of people there speak another language, it behooves you, one would think, to learn that language. If not simply for your own functionality, but out of respect for the people around you and the country that you're moving to. I personally would never think of moving to a country where I don't speak the language, but has an established language for itself, like France or Germany or something like that, without eventually learning the language. And quite frankly, learning it as fast as possible. Moving to a country where they speak a different language and not learning that language is a dick move. It's a dick move. It's not, it is, there's nothing special about you for doing that. It's an effective form of laziness, especially because there's so many ways to do it. Everybody's capable of doing it. It's learning more than one language in your life makes your brain healthier. You retain your mental acuity later in life, and longer because of that. So if you're going to move, if people are coming to the United States, I would say learn the language, learn English. You should learn English. If you want to get along and you want to do the best you can, if you want to take advantage of everything America has to offer, and God willing you do, you're going to need to learn English. You're going to need that. And you should expect that of yourself and everybody around you. If you take pride in I'm never going to, that's like if I moved to Mexico and I'm like, fuck that, I'm never going to learn Spanish. It's bullshit. I got a house here, I can rent stuff, I'm making money. Who gives a fuck if I speak what these people speak? It's a dick move. It's dickish. And it's a dickish move if you come here. Same thing. Like across the board. Like if you're going to move to a country and you don't speak the language, learn the language. Even if there's pockets where like, yeah, you can live in like if you go to Shanghai or something like that in China or parts of Beijing, you can spend most of your time never having to speak to a Chinese speaker. But it'd be an asshole move. It'd be an asshole move. Learn the language. And there should be every opportunity to do so as easy as possible. And it should be something that's encouraged. You don't enforce it like an asshole, but from the country coming in going, we encourage you in every way and we'll help you as much as you can if you're going to be a citizen to learn the language as quickly and as completely and as functionally as possible.
Yeah, that is where she met my dad, who was Venezuelan and spoke only Spanish and all of that. So they married, had kids. So I was born in Venezuela. I lived there till the age of 10, spoke only Spanish, did not like English, didn't like the sound it made. I just thought, oh, I just don't like it. I didn't want to learn it. When my parents unfortunately divorced, my mother decided to come back to the Rio Grande Valley to live with her parents. So in I come to Harlingen, and I was speaking only Spanish, but the Spanish that I spoke was very different than the Spanish my mom's family spoke. They had more of a Tex-Mex, and they would have a little bit of a mix of, they would speak English and then they would like speak Spanish and then they would mix it up. It drove me nuts. So maybe we'll leave it.
This is so weird. I don't. Yes, get on with it.
This for this
let's take a pause. But yeah, when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about whether it's possible to be 100% American and at the same time 100% affirm your own ethnic identity. In other words, is the idea of the hyphenated American good or bad? We'll pick this right up.
Oh, for fuck's sake. That's the end of the video. That's where they decided to end it. This is, listen to leftist multiculturalism misrepresents non-white immigrants in America. What the hell was that? Seriously, what a cliffhanger. We're so teased. We can't wait to go to the next clip, of which there's not a link. They didn't put something in the tail of it like, hey, jump in after this thing, or just come back from their own break and add it to the end of this video. Did they have a rule about only cutting it under 10 minutes because they know people will sign onto it? This is just 5 eggs. Yeah, clearly. Sorry.
5 eggs in a month.
Yep.
5 eggs.
This one absolutely gets 5 eggs today.
5 eggs.
I don't know if we could find anything this, like,
5 eggs.
as lazy and circular.
5 eggs in a month.
And they're
Eat 2 eggs a day.
I don't know anybody
5 eggs.
that does not deserve 5 eggs more than these 2 idiots. I have never been offended more by what someone was saying about other people, including themselves, that ultimately said so little. Cinco huevos, right?
5 eggs.
I don't.
5 eggs. 5 eggs in a month.
Yep.
Eat 2 eggs a day.
This is Huevos D'Souza.
Eat 2 eggs a day.
That's right. I don't.
5 eggs.
This is the worst. This is so stupid. But again, I know we're out of time and I gotta go. But I want to say this to you guys. There's an upside to all of this. Let's revisit for a moment. We were with the failed Arizona audit, and what's her name? Christina Balls, desperately clinging to hope that they would turn this into something as best they could, just somehow. Wu ji dan, right? Somebody give Wu ji dan. Somebody say it in Chinese. That's fun. That just still trying to sell this BS, right? Mark Levin absolutely flipping out about everything and saying nothing. Just rambling on, angry at Joe Scarborough for not backing him up the way he used to, trying a desperate attempt to cop my game and shitting all over himself in the process. Madison Cawthorn, again, what a 45-minute interview that they had to cut down into 4 minutes because he's a complete moron and they had to keep cutting away to do it. And then, let's see. And then Glenn Beck talking to Stu about absolutely nothing. Just nonsense. Just rambly sidecar of their regular talk just because they weren't done and they ran out of time on their show, so they decided to roll over to Stu's show, make him throw on his suit jacket and his shirt, because I don't believe he has the pants on. I think he's wearing mom jeans. And Glenn, which I didn't realize, like, see his ass exploding right here. Like, we all saw his overreach right here, but this like, what, it's airbag ass that's happening right here. I hope that's a pillow, but that's just ridiculous. Whatever that is. Is it his jacket folded off and he just put it there? Like, what kind of... Oh, my God. And then, of course, America's, like, most racist couple fapping verbally about her racial identity and his issues with whether or not it matters. And never getting to the end of it. Never getting to a point. And I want you guys to be happy. I want you guys to realize that these folks are now relegated to just clawing for something to give them relevance, something to make their followers afraid so that they'll keep buying the same bullshit, just shellacking it again and again and again with the same garbage. It's so beautiful. Because if these guys were actually winning, if the Arizona audit had turned into something, if Trump was actually coming back, if he hadn't basically agreed that his health is shit, that he agreed with Omarosa that he might not run in 2024 because of health reasons, like if they actually were like, yeah, he's going to run, he's going to win, he'll be top of the ticket, he's going to be awesome, the things are like, if that was all true, these assholes wouldn't be nearly as desperate for talking points. This is just turd polishing. That's what they're down to. And I could not be happier.